Everyone, and welcome to Vic Akers Wonderland World Cup. It's on the road to Stadium Australia. We are getting a little bit closer now. We are in the last 16. Lottie, how excited are you for this?
Oh, I'm absolutely buzzing. I mean, all these fixtures and all this football in the next few days, starting tomorrow because it is Friday night for us at the moment, and it's been a bit empty about football. I actually had to do some work today. So, I know I probably said this already, actually, come to think of it. But I've had a little bit of a recharge, ready to go again, buzzing for Monday. Can't wait to see the Lionesses.
And Adam, how are you feeling about the last 16?
Very excited. It's a 4-day spectacular-thon of some very intriguing fixtures with some teams I think we all thought would make it, and quite a few I think are going to be a bit of a surprise. I think and there's a few surprises definitely mixed in there, which we're going to obviously pick over. So I can't wait to see who succeeds and who slips.
Speaking of surprises, Switzerland versus Spain is on at 6 o'clock tomorrow, BBC One. These sides have met 3 times in the past, Spain winning 2 of them, Switzerland winning 1 of them. Switzerland have scored 6 goals to Spain's 8. Opta have given a chance of Spain qualifying at 80.6% to Switzerland's 19.4%. Are we going to see an upset, or do you think it's going to be a doddle in the park for this Spanish side?
Do you know what? Because of the Japan game, I'm not overly confident in the Spanish team, but I'm also not overly confident in Switzerland with their results. Yes, they kept clean sheets and draws, but that's one way to win a game. But I want to see goals. Leo Volti's done a very, very fantastic job at leading Switzerland through the group stages. But now this is the time where it gets serious, and you need to start scoring goals, because clean sheets aren't going to win you these games. They're going to win you added extra time and penalties, because one of these two teams has to go out. Whereas you look at Spain, they've been scoring the goals against Costa Rica and against Zambia, and you can see them winning this match because of that. You've got the likes of Alexia Putellas, who I think she started last game for 60 minutes. And then you've got the likes of Jenny Hermoso, who is on fire. She's had a few goals. She's been in the right place at the right time, headed the ball home. And you've got Oliveira. She's normally quite quiet, but she's even scored. And you've got to wonder if they can get past the likes of Verona Batile as well from the Swiss side.
I'm less in the Spain camp because Spain have never won a knockout game. They've never, if they get this far, we see them every tournament they play in. They'll look okay in the group stage, get to the knockout rounds and lose it. And we saw that in the Euros when England played them. And I would say Switzerland are going to feel they've got a bit of a bum deal here because they've worked hard, they've topped the group, and they've drawn Spain. So which we can sympathise with. But at the same time, you watch that Spain-Japan game. I mean, the way Japan tore them to pieces in that first half, had the game won by half time, and Spain never looked like they were going to break down. Spain are brilliant passers of the ball, but if you're defensively competent, and I think we can probably all agree Zambia aren't, you've got a good chance against them. And Switzerland are very defensively competent. You've got Leo Volti in the midfield. We've got Noel Maritz in defence as well. Arsenal bias showing here, obviously. I do think Spain are going to struggle. We saw in the Euros they struggle against very deep defensive teams. The only way Spain are going to win if they score early. They score early, they'll get comfortable, they'll get the passing going and be fine. But if Switzerland frustrate them, I can see this being a 0-0. or Switzerland maybe doing a Japan and mugging them. The only difference between Switzerland and Japan is Switzerland don't have the threats that Japan have. They don't play that way. They don't play front-footed, attacking, free-flowing football. They are very defensive, and they will be looking to steal something on a set piece. But I don't think this is going to be easy for Spain. I think Switzerland could pull the rug out under them if they are defensively competent. I mean, they haven't conceded a goal, I don't think, at this World Cup so far. The 0-0 against was it against 0-0 against New Zealand, sorry, and then
Norway.
Norway.
0-0 against Norway and New Zealand, and a 2-0 win over was it the Philippines, was it in the end? Yeah, because the Philippines had a goal chalked up for offside. So they have, Switzerland is free score in the R. Switzerland have a defence that are yet to be breached. I don't think this is going to be a thriller minute. I think it's going to be a bit of a snooze fest, which will be appropriate because it'll be 6 a.m. and I'll be half asleep as well while I'm watching it. I think this is going to be a draw, 0-0, penalties.
I've been thinking about this as well, but then you think about the players that Switzerland have at their disposal, more attacking wise. There's likes of Senegorcevic, who plays Barcelona, won Champions League. She usually comes off the bench and she does remarkably well. It just feels like if Switzerland will end up like nicking this, like literally in the last minute of added time in the second half, or what they did against Wales, where they ended up letting Spain score the first goal. They go and score one, like right towards the end of the second half on added time, and then they go into added time, same end, and go and score in that last minute, and just knock the wind out of Spain's sails because they got nowhere to run. I wouldn't be opposed to this being a penalty shootout if I'm honest either. I just find it a bit odd, really, that Opta have said that they're thinking this one's going to be so one-sided. If I'm honest.
I think it's based on the fact that a lot of Spain, we know the talent of the Spain team, we know that a lot of the teams play for you look at Barcelona in the Champions League, and I think they're sort of mapping that onto the women's team, and then sort of probably mapping the men's team as well, which I think we are guilty of a lot of. We take the expectation and what we see in the men's team equivalent onto the women's team, especially with teams like Brazil and France and so forth. And I think with Spain, we're doing that as well. We know that.
I am going to interject there, Adam, but you can also see the expectation mapped out from the domestically Barcelona women onto the Spain team.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the Barcelona players aren't in the team, though. That's the thing. A lot of them are out at the moment with the 15.
And a lot of them have chosen not to play as well.
A lot of them chose not to play. A lot of them chose not to play, and some of them who asked to come back have been denied the chance to do so. And I think we're seeing Spain. If Switzerland let Spain have their own way, they'll be, it'll be fine. But if they don't, if they gum up the works, if you will, I think Spain are going to toil here. And I don't think we're going to see the beautiful Spanish football that we saw, say, against Zambia.
Okay, so. I think it's only fair that we do a prediction on this. If you had to have a score line, what do you think it would be?
0-0, Switzerland on penalties.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Adam there. I'm not firmly. For me, this whole game is a big question mark. I don't know where it's going to go. As Adam just said, they've never really gone further than this Spain. And then Switzerland, they're not scoring goals, and that what concerns me.
You know what the irony would be is if this Switzerland team do actually end up taking it all the way to penalties and go and beating them on penalties, because that's what happened in the Euros a couple of years ago. So for the men on the men's side, so I wouldn't see that slip it past them. But if we're expecting goals, I wouldn't look at this game. So we'll move on to the second game on Saturday. Japan versus Norway on ITV1 for the UK viewers. 9 o'clock kickoff if you are in the UK. There's only been one previous meeting. Norway won this one 4-0 at the World Cup. That was in 1994. Guess who scored in that game?
Hegarisa.
Yes, she did.
Was that in the World Cup?
Yes.
So 95 then, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I wasn't sure which one it was. To be honest.
That was the year that Norway actually won the World Cup. Yeah, and I think Norway even played us in the group stage and beat us 2-0, sadly. Yeah, Norway should we've seen the Norway talent, Guro Reiten, Aga Hegebo, Callum Graham Hansen, Ljarsen Morn, we've spoken about it in so many pods, and yet they just struggle so much. Now, people have said Norway are back because they beat the Philippines 6-0. I don't believe that for a second.
Absolutely not.
No, I don't believe that for a second. And you can't take back all the comments that were coming out after they drew 0-0 against Switzerland. Clearly, there were issues in that squad. And you look at Japan, and you look at how amazing they look, top their group at a canter, and justice would be that Japan win this. And I feel that, and I worry that then for that reason they won't. But yeah.
Just to add to this, Norway have failed to keep a clean sheet in last 5 of their knockouts in World Cups, averaging 2.6 goals per match. Japan have a 66% of chance of winning. They've given Norway 34% of that. However, Hinata Mizawa needs 1 more goal to equalise Sara's records of 5 goals in 1 World Cup campaign for Japan. So, just with those stats in mind, Lottie, does that sway you a little bit, or you just think this could be almost similar to what England did against Norway in the Euros last year?
Japan haven't lost a game. They haven't let in a single goal in. I think with the experiences of, as I've said this before, Saki Kumagai at the back, she's won the World Cup. Her experience of this, I think, and the balance of youth is absolutely perfect. Mirizawa's on for the Golden Boot, and I'm going to back her to have it for sure. So that record, she'll get it. She's been absolutely brilliant. I don't think Norway are going to win this. I'm going to back Japan all the way. They're too defensively solid. They're constantly carving open defenses. Yes, it was only obviously Spain is the main one, but the other 2 teams are a lot lower ranked, so you kind of expect it. But to carve up and absolutely destroy Spain the way they did, they stepped up to the challenge, and I'm looking forward to them stepping up again against the talent of Norway, where the team's not really glued together. We all saw the interviews with Caroline Graham Hansen, and I've already said this, but a picture of her talking to the press the next day, taking back her comments, and then we had Risa standing in the back looking very smug.
Yeah.
Picture speaks 1,000 words, but you can read into it what you want, but that is what I'm seeing. I can see Norway coming home, Frida Mana coming back to the Arsenal nice and early, in time for Champions League football.
That's what I hope. I'm really looking forward to see Japan play, but I just think of so many times when football doesn't operate in that sort of justice way. The wrong team gets sent home, and I really hope it doesn't. And I have this feeling that Norway are going to do it, but I'm going to override my internal gut of worry that something nasty is going to happen, and I'm going to say Japan win 3-1. I'll give Norway a goal, but I think Japan will win 3-1. But yeah, I've just got this nagging feeling that Norway are going to do something skullduggery, sort of Dick Dastardly, and win, and it wouldn't be right, because for me, Japan are the wild cards that have the best outside chance of winning the World Cup, but they're of a surprise package that I think if England can't win the World Cup, I want Japan to win the World Cup, because I think they've played the best football so far and they've been amazing to watch.
Don't let your Dutch friends talk about that. Hear you say that. Sorry,
I think I'm going to have to agree with Adam there, but I'm going to go for a different scoreline. I'm going to go 3-2 to Japan. I think this game's going to have goals. But somehow I can't see the Japan defence letting 2 in. But I'm just going to be bold and go for 3-2 to Japan. Japan are going to that quarterfinal.
Yeah.
I can't see Norway going there, regardless if they beat the Philippines the way they did. Just to qualify, I think it was disappointing. I expected more against Switzerland. I expected more against New Zealand. So don't get me wrong, I'm happy for New Zealand. Got first win, first goals, etc. But I expect more with the players that are in that team.
I think this is one of the problems, and if I had to pick a scoreline, I could easily see this being one of the highest scoring games of the World Cup, if like up there with the Euros. As I said early on, they could literally diminish them 8-0, similar to what England did. Diminish. Have them with a cup of Delight, Sunny Delight. No, Sunny Delight's the drink.
Sunny D.
Sunny.
Let me get it, the old Sunny D pure sugar.
Either way, I just think Japan are going to run away with this. I wouldn't be as surprised if we see more than 3 goals. Like I said, the average that Norway concede is usually over that 2.2 goal margin. So I imagine Japan might win this 4-0. If I'm honest, I don't see Norway scoring and if they did, it's almost like we'll let you score. So they're almost like a pity goal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but
I don't think that's going to happen.
We'll take a break and we'll be back with round 2. That will be on Sunday.
Great skills again. She almost got it through to Enia Luco. Just got puts it back goalwards. It's another Argentina disaster, and England have the 2-goal lead that they need to progress through to the quarterfinals of the World Cup.
And welcome back. So we are on to the next game. It is the Netherlands against South Africa on BBC One at 3 a.m. on Sunday. Not a nice game to have if you are a fan of either of these sides, but this is the Netherlands' last. Netherlands have won both their previous meeting. That's 2 of these games. One of them being a friendly earlier on this year. The Netherlands have scored 7 goals to South Africa's 2. Unfortunately, that's all the stats that I can give at the moment. But bearing in mind that South Africa have managed to, against all odds, get this far, they've set themselves up nicely with a very good opponent in the Netherlands. I think I might have to go to Adam first on this. What are you going to expect? What can we expect from this game? What was your feelings on this?
I feel the South African story ends on this one. It's an incredible achievement for South Africa to get out of the group, but I just feel with the Netherlands, they're gonna turn them over. This is a sort of the whole thing's a bit of a stitch up because the Netherlands are playing this game at 3 a.m. The whole kickoff time situation was engineered so that the USA would actually be playing this game under the assumption that the USA would top the group. So that's sort of in both situations
That
it's still
kind
been
of
flipped.
backfired.
Well, it's double backfired because South Africa were not. I think if you were passing out betting tips and doing your predictions as we all did, and we all proved to be wrong, I think if you would have predicted this to be a USA-Italy game, and so it's completely blown out the water in terms of our predictions. So this is a really unexpected matchup, which makes it all the more intriguing. I think the Netherlands will win this one. I think they've hit their stride. They've got a really good point against the USA. I think Jonker's got them set up now. I think it's in the back 3. I think they're looking very comfortable playing that formation. I wonder if maybe it's a Dutch thing to play in the back 3. That's why Wiegman's gone for it as well. But I think against South Africa, I just think they'll have too much. We saw them against Vietnam, and they were absolutely imperious in attack. Esme Bruch looks like she's really kicked into gear. Jill Rords found some form as well. I think their front line is. I think they're going to have too much of South Africa. I don't think South Africa will leave without scoring. I do think they'll get on the score sheet. It wouldn't surprise me if they even took the lead because South Africa, as I mentioned in the previous pod, have a curious habit of taking the lead and then blowing it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they scored first and then the Dutch ran away with it. So put it this way, if South Africa beat the Dutch and knocked them out of the last 16, we've had some shocks at this World Cup. This would probably be well up there with it, and serious questions would be asked of the Netherlands. But no, I can't see anything but a Dutch win here. Sorry, South Africa.
How are you feeling about this one, Lottie? Apart from the fact that you have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it if you really wanted to watch it.
Oh, do you know what? I think this is going to be one I'll watch back for me. Maybe Monday afternoon. I'll be honest with you. I am off to the Community Shield with the Arsenal, so I won't be getting up at 3 a.m. to watch the game, unfortunately. I'm really a bit annoyed about the timings for the Dutch games because I haven't watched a single minute. I've only been watching highlights of the Dutch. And from what I'm seeing from people's comments and thoughts across social media, they've been brilliant. It's just a case of how will they approach the South Africans. South Africans did put a good shift in against Italy in their last game. I think they're going to take that same fighting spirit into the game, and it's a case of the fighting spirit feeds the deadliness of the Dutch.
Yeah.
Because the goals are coming from all over the pitch. You don't know who's going to score. I know Dominic Janssen scored. Jill Roord has had a couple as well. And this game, for me, can go any way. But I'm going to go for a cheeky 2-1 to the Netherlands for this one.
I'm going to go 3. No, I'm going to go 4-1 to the Netherlands. I just feel their attack is too much. And the thing with South Africa is they've not kept a clean sheet in the World Cup. So far, they've conceded 2 goals in every game they've played at the World Cup so far. They just do not have a stable backline. So no, it's a 4-1 win for the Netherlands for me, I'm afraid.
So a real shame, to be honest, because you look at some of these games, and I was actually going to ask you about, do you think Victoria Palova is going to come up with a goal?
Yes.
Is it going to be in this game?
Yeah.
Do you think?
This is the one. This is one with Palova. Bustles through, energy, pressing, race through and gets the goal. So yeah, this is Palova's moment.
But hopefully she can add to the Arsenal tally, because we are on the board and we're quite high up there, and would like to see it carry on. If I'm honest, I think it could quite easily be one or two ways. I don't know if South Africa were able to score. I think that's a huge milestone for them. If they don't score, I think they'll look back and be a what could have been for them. So I'm a bit torn. I just think, again, it's similar to Netherlands. The Netherlands could decide maybe to play first 45 minutes, win the game, say 4-0 at half time, and then just make 4 changes, and then maybe that's how South Africa get back into the match. Maybe make it 4-3 or something like that, and they just miss out in extra time, in the additional time that gets added on. Yeah, I'll go for that. I think this will be one of the most entertaining games. As much as I love Van Donstella and her defensive capabilities, and it does make me think maybe South Africa gets at least 1 goal. So we'll carry on to this one. If you are a women's football fan and you've been up to date on women's tournaments, you would know that Sweden play USA in pretty much every single tournament. Sunday on ITV at 10 a.m. for all UK viewers. This is the 8th game that they played at tournaments. Sweden have won 2, the USA have won 3, and then there's been 3 draws. The goals between these two have been Sweden have scored 9 to USA's 10. If you're looking at it from the group stages, the USA have been a bit hectic. You probably say mismanaged. You'd probably say not as well drilled as the USA. You'd say probably 2015 and maybe even say 2019 as well. But this Sweden side just seems to have just, whatever it is, they don't seem to really turn up until it gets to knockout rounds. And do you think we will see that Sweden again?
I think for me personally, so far looking at them in this tournament, they've been in cruise mode. They haven't had that real opportunity to challenge and take someone on. I think this will be their first ideal challenge in this tournament. And I am praying Stina Blackstenius is the one that sends the USA home. I completely agree with Carly Lloyd, who called out the US team and telling them it was not good enough. As I've said earlier and on previous pods, saved by the post. Literally, I feel like this team shouldn't be in the round of 16. Their performances haven't matched the hype. And in response to Alex Morgan's question about who's really going to stop us, you're stopping yourselves at this point. And yes, you had a great game against I've forgotten who they played first.
Vietnam,
but that's Vietnam.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not a physical real challenge. When you came up against Dutch, you could only draw. You come out and you struggled against debutants Portugal. There's a lot of questions over this team for me. Adam, I don't know about you, but it's Alex Morgan missing penalties. It's something up the front. Sophia Smith is getting those goals, but there's something up the front with the rest of the up top. It's just not registering.
They haven't.
And I don't know what it is.
They haven't clicked, and this. I mean, any team, and this. I don't want to say this because it sounds really powerful towards a Vietnam team, but you could cobble together something to beat Vietnam, this USA team. It didn't have to be firing all cylinders in order to turn them over. But we saw what the Netherlands did when they were firing on all cylinders, and they absolutely destroyed Vietnam. The USA weren't playing at that particular level. We saw them against the Dutch. They got a draw. Okay, that could be a good result in isolation, but you'd expect them to have imposed themselves more, and I don't think they did in that game. And then the Portugal game, I mean, like I said, saved by the post. The formula isn't quite right. They're not that fluent, and the feeling is you worry that if one of these things, like if you don't take them out now, when they do click, it'll all be fine and they'll go and win it. So you've got to get them while they're cold-footed. And Sweden could be that team. They did beat them at the last Olympics, 3-0. Stina and Hurtig, Arsenal forwards, as we know, got the goals on that occasion. A brace from Stina, so hopefully she can repeat the trick this time around. It is interesting what you're saying, Matt. They do seem to always play them, and then they play each other in the group stage in the last World Cup, and the USA won that one. They are to what they are to Sweden and the USA are like what we in Japan are. We always seem to play each other at the World Cup, although hopefully not this time around. I think Sweden will win this one and knock USA out at the last 16 stage, and it'll be and if it does happen, and I hope it does, I think the media hype will go into overdrive and over because them talk and say how much of an upset it is. But to be brutally honest, I don't think it'll be as much of an upset as maybe it will be portrayed. And I think a lot of time with the USA, your people are playing the brand and the name and the reputation and the image rather than the 11 that are actually on the pitch at the moment. And I think we need to maybe sort of take our mindset away of this is not the same team that won in 2019 and 2015 and got to the final 2011. This is a team where a lot of the big names have moved on or are injured, and there's younger players going through. There's a different manager in charge. It's not the same team. It's not the same setup, and I think that shows.
Absolutely. Can I just ask a really complete random question?
Go for it.
I don't. Obviously, you guys have watched the 2019 tournament.
Yeah.
I didn't. I've had a few American fans turn around and say the manager needs to go. I just wondered what your thoughts were.
I mean, I should say with 2019, actually, to give an example, as great as the USA were, Phil Neville's England nearly knocked them out. I mean, they were a penalty save and an offside line away from being knocked out by England. I mean, as great as they are portrayed, I mean, there was an element of that they sort of got their act together. They didn't have a great group stage, or a bit hit and miss, and then they just kicked on in the knockout round. I have heard with the manager for this one that sort of murmur saying, "Oh, should he go? Is he? His position is questioned." I think if the USA get knocked out early doors, I think it's a sackable offence. It certainly will be for the US because the US mindset is that they are number one. They have this belief that they are the best team in the world, and winning 2 World Cups on a row, you can say fair enough. That's a fair stance to have, and they have been the best team in the world for years. But all empires fall. I mean, the Arsenal women were the dominant force in the league. It's fair to say we're not top of the table now, are we? This could be the
currently the dominant force. No, absolutely.
Exactly. And I think with the USA, I think it's the same. I think their time is coming to an end. I think it will eventually, and I don't think they will accept that back home. And I think sadly, Vlatko will pay for it with a job if the USA falls short. They had a disappointing Olympics, and he clung on after that. But I think a last 16 exit.
Matt, do you think? Sorry, Adam. Matt, do you think that this is due to the growth of football? Just linking on from what Adam said.
Well, I can't. I've lost count how many times I've talked about the development of women's football over the last 5 years or so. I just want to, just on that alone, I'll give you like a snippet of what Tobin Heath has mentioned about when she's talking about World Cup winners. And no, I see what you're trying to do there, but no, absolutely not. I still think the US women's national team are torchbearers for not just the fight to increase investment in women's football, but for all of pay equity globally. I think the US team being successful is the number one driver in our sport globally, getting the recognition and the investment that it deserves. I think we're still the team and the following that is the greatest. I think we still affect the landscape of the sport the most. I do think, as much as we want to root sometimes for other countries, I think the best thing that can happen for the sport is actually if the US team win the World Cup again.
No. The best thing for the
Absolutely not.
No. And I will say this: the WSL. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound really bad. The WSL became great when Arsenal stopped winning it, because you inspired somebody else to take up the mantle. If the same team wins all the time, nothing happens. You need to evolve, and someone else to take that mantle. And I think the USA falling will kick on again, because otherwise, so you get a different face, you get a different person winning the trophy. I think that's an element of sort of trying to cling on, and to the past. We are the best and we should be winning every time. We should say Germany have already fallen. Germany, another two-time winners, probably the best team in Europe historically. They fall at the group stage. They have that happened, and I think the USA needs to have that cold shower of reality, and accept that them being great does not. Women's football isn't riding on them. They're not the torchbearers anymore. They don't have to be the one leading the charge, and it's all on them, and they must win in order to make women's football great, because there are so many great footballing nations now and great leagues now. It's not just the NWSL, it's not just America. And I think that there is an element of pride and an arrogance there, which is justified because they have been great. But I think that is coming to an end, and I think they need to accept that. And the more they deny it, the bigger the drop-off is going to be.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? There's this delusion that they still think that they are the best. And the problem,
like Man United.
essentially, they're Man United, but they have the trophies apart from the championship. But anyway, I think we should close the gap on the US. Let's go for score lines just before we move on.
2-0 to Sweden.
3-0 to Sweden.
I'm tempted to raise it a little bit more and say 4-0 Sweden.
But I think this shows a lot about the USA, that we taking our bias away from the USA, but we don't think they'll win. I know we don't like to say, but we don't even think they'll score a goal. We don't even think they'll win. And it's not a prediction of hope, thinking, I hope they go out. I genuinely don't think they've got it in themselves to beat Sweden. And I think that says a lot about the USA at the moment. Of course, we'll all be proven wrong and they'll win 2-0 and they'll romp and win it. But as things stand, that's where opinion is. I think that says a lot.
Okay, so thank you for that, and we'll be back in a second.
Yankee. Comfortably past the half-hearted challenge. Looks to square it. And England have their 3-goal advantage back. And it's the golden girl, Kelly Smith, who taps it home from close range. All is well again.
Welcome back. So Monday morning comes around on BBC One if you are in the UK. 8:30 kickoff, England versus Nigeria. This is the first meeting of these sides. So I do not have any other stats for you. So we'll go straight into it. How do you think this is going to go, Adam?
I can't go negative because Lottie will have my guts for Gardens again if I start doing jinxy bad predictions. So no, I'm going all positive on this one. I do think we've hit our stride properly.
Are you feeling all right?
Yeah, I've just sort of accepted it. I think with Nigeria, we should. And this is the thing. We moved to the 3 to the back. We've got Lauren James in the 10. If Serena decides to lock in that formation and those players, and that's what we are going forward, I think for Nigeria, I think we'll have enough, providing we play in the manner that we did. If we fall back to the way we were playing against, say, Haiti in Denmark, this will be a struggle. When we've seen with Nigeria very good on the counter, especially against Australia. But
yeah, absolutely. But we also don't want the girls in the defence to do what Australia did and completely focus on Australia and panic and then let her go in.
Well, that's why with the 3 at the back, there's safety in numbers. Players won't get isolated because you'll have players for cover. I think we'll stick with the back 3, and I think England should hopefully have enough to get past Nigeria. But it's not going to be like the 6-1 against China. It'll be a closer game.
I can't agree with Adam more than that. I think this is going to be a nice, juicy fixture for us. It's going to be another test. It's the first time coming up against them. They've got the experience in the defence. They've got a fantastic striker in Ashola, and as well as Uchenna Karu. But I think England are going to nab this one, especially if Serena locks in that formation and maybe makes it odd. Well, I don't think she's going to make any changes because that worked for me and it was something different. It's given me that spot back to believe in England again, and there's no question marks over it. We've got 6 goals from open play. Happy days. So yeah, I'm going to back England for this one as an England fan. Going to be biased as hell. I'm going to go 3-1 England.
Adam, you didn't give a score.
I'm going to go 3-0. My only fear is, like, we talked about Norway and we sort of scoffed at the idea that they were back because they beat the Philippines 6-0. My only fear is that in our case, we're not over-indexing a win against China, albeit the Asian champions at the time. I think 3-0 England, if we are, as we should be, back to as we should be with the connections, the chemistry, all playing forward. 3-0 England. And hopefully then we can maybe, if we can get the game one nice and early, we can get some subs on, get James off, maybe give Otto Wubben-Moy some minutes, maybe give Jordan Nobbs some minutes, get those players rotated and ready. But yeah, I'm thinking 3-0 win.
So are we saying Rachel Daly at the back then?
Yeah, Rachel Daly wing back. So attacking wing as to full back, and I think it will be a Russo partnership. Although we did actually beg the question, if you wanted to, could you do a Russo Daly front two, but with James, Long James behind?
No, because if you're putting Carter in, that significantly weakens the back. With Ashola around, I'd rather have Rachel Daly there. I'll be honest with you.
I think that's the biggest question, isn't it?
And that's where she's more comfortable playing.
Sorry, the question was going to be whether or not Jess Carter starts, because I think that she's going to be the one that's going to be exploited. That's where I think Nigeria are going to get that goal.
I would have Lotte Wubben-Moy instead of Jess Carter, but Jess Carter played a lot in a back three with Chelsea and played in that back three alongside Millie Bright, and I think that is what will win Serena over. It's maintaining those partnerships from club level. The familiarity. It's like when you play FIFA Ultimate Team. Certain players work better when they all line up and they've got the chemistry. And I think it's just the idea that, well, Jess Carter, Millie Bright, they played back three for Chelsea most of the season. They know how to play it. We'll play those two together. I think that's what Serena will stick with, sadly. And I think because of that, Lotte will miss out. The only way I would make it work is if Lotte was the other centre back, Green would move to full back, and then you could have a Rachel Daly Russo double act up front. But then you might be making yourself a bit more defensively suspect. But that's why Serena is where she is, and that's why we're on a podcast. She makes her decisions, so we don't have to.
So we will move on to. Sorry, Lottie, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so then that's why everybody on the podcast wants to be a manager. I don't, but it's just possible options.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'd love to get into the mind of Serena and to see how her mind works tactically. For the football, I think that would be so fascinating.
So, you know what's going to happen next? We're going to end up with a Disney Plus series, aren't we? Anyway, we will go.
The Lionesses.
Don't knock it until you've watched the Matildas. I promise you.
Our next game is, speaking of Land Down Under, Australia versus Denmark. On BBC One for the UK viewers at 11:30 a.m. on Monday. The teams have played each other twice. Both teams have won a game each. Australia have 5 goals to Denmark's 4. How do you think this game is going to go?
It all depends on the return of Sam Kerr, although I'm not worried for them not scoring goals, because they've proved that they can survive without Sam Kerr.
Yeah.
As much as she's the poster girl for the tournament, their goals do come in different forms. The left-hand side is on fire, as we see week in, week out, at the Arsenal with Caitlin Ford and Steph Catley. I've got to say, I'm loving Steph Catley as a captain, Adam.
Yeah, no, and I'm loving her penalty taking. I think, the day that Kim Little...
I think she's way ahead of McCabe now.
Well, yeah, I was going to say maybe, definitely ahead of McCabe, and maybe the heir apparent to Kim Little when that horror day arrives, which we're all dreading. this is. I mean, I'm nervous about Australia because of the way the group lines up, and I know it's poor to look too far ahead because that's when you lose in the last 16 and you get a bit embarrassed. But Australia are on England's side of the draw, and they are, of course, the only team that Serena Williams lost to when managing England, and they beat us at the Olympics as well when we were
But
Team GB.
with Serena in charge, that was a friendly. It was not competitive. It's a different ball game. We know this.
Yeah, I know, but also the fact that we lost to Australia in the Olympics when we were Team GB, albeit managed by an incompetent coach.
Exactly, I was just about to say that.
But they are dangerous, Australia. They're very dangerous. I did think that maybe they were going to wobble when they lost to Nigeria, but I mean, watching them against Canada, they looked right at it. Hayley Raso, Mary Fowler, Caitlin Ford, the attacking fights they have, and that is not including Sam Kerr. My question might even be: would Sam Kerr's introduction upset the balance they've got now? That's the more thing. If they've now maybe find a way of playing without her, we're bringing her in, jeopardize that somewhat. Which but I can't. I mean, if she's fit, I think she's going to play at some point. I can't imagine Australia going through the whole tournament and not playing Sam Kerr because that would just be bizarre.
I think it would be really unfair to her as well.
I think she'll start. I think she'll start this one. I can't see it coming off the bench. I think she will actually be starting this one, and I think they'll beat Denmark. I just think Denmark in this World Cup so far, they've been very tame. They just scraped past China, and it took them ages to finish off Haiti. And defensively pretty good, I'd say. I think, but just in attack, apart from Pernilla Harder, I just don't think.
I can see Katrin Call coming home early for Champions League football.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but she's going to be on her way home. She has started every game for them, which is absolutely brilliant for her age and her experience in terms of tournament football. I just can't see Denmark pulling this off. They're coming home.
But tournaments are stronger the longer the hosts are in. I always feel that if the host gets to as far as the quarterfinals, you get a good tournament out of it. If they went out in the last 16, that would be a major blow to the entire to the tournament organisers and to Australian football. They want their team to progress deep because it's a lightning rod for them, their leagues and their football and their players. So it does feel like the tournament is riding on Australia to go deep, and I think they will. I think they'll beat Denmark, and I would say 3-1 Australia.
Oh wow! But I think I completely agree with you there, Adam. But you've also got to remember the magic of a home crowd.
Yeah, I think that's what
got us to the final, and that is what I think.
Yeah.
Australia are going to be relying on, and I was speaking to a friend who lives in Sydney. He can't get tickets, even though he's local. The Australia games are selling out like hotcakes.
Yeah.
So and it's absolutely amazing to see, as well as the other games. But obviously, as a host, they're going to be the ones that go first. They're going to be the stadiums that are packed out.
And if the games go marginal 50-50, I can see the crowd giving the team that edge that just pushes them over the line, as it did so often for us during the Euros. Sorry, Denmark.
So I think we're all in agreement then. If I'm honest, I don't even think Denmark have really been able to provide great attacking threat.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, whenever I've seen Katrine Kuhl, she seems to be very lost in that midfield. It's almost like she doesn't know what to do with herself, because it seems like I think the best way I can describe it is that Katrine Kuhl, when she's not playing on the right side and when she's playing in the middle, she's like a lion. She'll pounce on anything, and she loves to go bombarding forward and try and do something in that attacking third. It just seems like as soon as she gets the ball, especially in that opening game, she kept on losing the ball every couple of minutes. I'm not having a go. First of all, she's 19 years old. She doesn't need the critics. I just think maybe you'll look back on this and go, because it's a major tournament. It's just the experience.
We should say Vivian Miedema, in her first World Cup in 2015, she had a lot of struggles playing in that team and suffered a lot. She got a lot of I'd say pelters, shall we say, from the public. They expect a lot of her in that World Cup in 2015, and it did affect her. Made us question the sport, but she was able to turn it around. I mean, had a great Euros, won the Euros, and become the legend that she is. So if she has had I would say maybe an underwhelming, say, World Cup, There's no way it has to be the end. And if Katrina Cole does have regrets over it, it's important she harnesses that to improve herself for the next tournament and for Arsenal.
You know what? I kind of think she's kind of missing her sister in from another mother. I know I'm saying that really badly. I should have really not said that.
Yeah.
In
Absolutely.
Gio.
Sorry, Matt.
Well, yeah, but her best.
I haven't seen Gio at the tournament. Has anybody seen?
Gio wasn't chosen at all.
She didn't get
But
there.
she might. I thought she might have gone.
No,
to watch.
she's
with Leah and Beth and Viv, they can't go because of their recoveries.
They're all in pre-season at the moment now. That will be something that we talk about when we do another transfer talk. But Australia, for me, I've been the champion of 2-0s that haven't actually happened. So I just have a feeling that Australia are going to win this one 2-0. Yeah, we'll be back in a sec.
Luco battling. Stayed up there. Yankee cutting onto a favoured left foot here, and fly one goalwards. Keeper couldn't hold it. Kelly Smith's in, and Kelly Smith has fired it home. England 5, Argentina 1.
We're back, and first and foremost, we've got the game of the jungle, Colombia versus Jamaica on Tuesday on ITV. This is a 9 a.m. in the UK kickoff. Funny enough, these teams have only played each other once. It was in the Pan American Games in 2019. Colombia won the game 2-0, and I think this is a game that no one was expecting, but it is happening, shall we say, on Tuesday. What are your thoughts, and what's going to be the score?
Well, I think this is one of those games where there's no weight on it, if that makes any sense. You think of all the other games, because we're going to come to France and Morocco left. Obviously, France is the bigger team in that side. You've got the Netherlands, you've got the USA, you've got England. This one is sort of the two of the sides who have done incredibly well to get out of their groups, and in doing so, muscling out one of the bigger sides. In Colombia's case, they've managed to knock out Germany, and Jamaica obviously knock out Brazil. So it's definitely the surprise. I think I'm right thinking that whoever wins this game will play the winner between Nigeria and England. So whilst instinctively it may not be one you might want to watch because not really got a horse in the race, I think it'd be worth watching just to see that should we, and by then we will have known if we beat Nigeria, get an eye who our opponents would be should we be fortunate enough to beat Nigeria. I think it's just going to be a very interesting game. I think it's going to be a very good game. I think Colombia will edge this simply because I think they've got a bit more World Cup experience and they've got a bit more talent, goal-scoring talent, shall we say, the likes of Caicedo, who's already impressed. Jamaica have only scored one goal in this World Cup so far, but defensively they've been very, very good. They've kept out France, and Panama has shown it's very difficult to do that, and they've kept out Brazil. Brazil as well. So I think this is going to be Colombian attack versus Jamaican defence. I just think Colombia will have the edge on this one, and I think we'll probably see another great Caicedo goal. I'm not going to say it's going to be the most amazing game of the tournament, although sometimes these can be. But I think this is one that Colombia's going to edge.
Absolutely, I'm really, really, really excited for this one. I'm like, I want Khadija Shaw or Bunny Shaw, whichever you want to prefer her to find her scoring boots. I want to see her score, but I also want to see Linda Caicedo on fire because her goals have just been a work of art. I think this game is going to be very physical, very challenging. There's going to be cards, there's going to be goals, and it's just going to be drama until that whistle is blown to get through to the quarterfinals and play whoever's waiting for them. Hopefully it will be England, but we shall see. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the Jamaicans take on that Colombian defence because they're very solid. They let one in against Germany, but that was it.
And one against Morocco.
Yeah, and one against Morocco, but that was it. But the thing is, they lost that Morocco game, which is why Morocco were there.
Yeah.
and South Korea park the bus. But again, this game is just it's the game to watch for me personally, and I'm so excited about it.
For me, the interesting is Bunny Shaw's yet to score. Khadija Shaw's yet to score for Jamaica.
And this is the opportunity for her to start rippling that net.
If she doesn't score, if Jamaica say go out to Colombia, you're going to think it's a very disappointing tournament from Bunny Shaw if the only thing she's done is get a red card against France. Yeah, I think we expected a bit more from her. I mean, kudos to Jamaica for going through, but we've hardly seen. It helps if she was suspended for one game, but even the game she's played, I don't think we've seen that much. I think maybe a freak against France, and that was about it.
Yeah, and she almost had that goal against Brazil when she sent it flying over there. If she was going to score, that would have been the opportunity right there for me. But she Harry Kaned it, so to speak. That's the best analogy I can think of. As much as we dislike comparing football, but that was the style of the goal. If, as I said, if they were going to score, that was the opportunity. I think if this is going to go to AET and penalties, Becky Spencer is going to have another game of her life again, like she did against the Brazilians.
Well, she's got it within her, that's for sure. And if she does have a game of her life and Jamaica go through, you probably start making a case for keeper of the tournament potentially.
Oh, absolutely. And then again, there will be more calls for their FA to back them because it's just ridiculous, as I've said previously.
So for me, if I'm honest, looking at this, it could go either two ways, and it ends up with a 0-0, ends up going to extra time, and then penalties. But I think Colombia have too good of an attack against Jamaica's defence to let that happen. So I think Colombia are going to win this one 2-0. And we'll just quickly move on to the last game of the last 16. France v Morocco, Tuesday midday, which is 12 o'clock lunchtime. So make sure you are on your break. On this one's on BBC One. First ever meeting between these two sides. Can you believe it or not? However, it is a similar replay to what happened in the Men's World Cup, and France have the Saudi manager who's managed to go one step better than he did with Saudi Arabia. Is this going to be France's game, or do you think Morocco have it in them to maybe upset another European team once again?
Nah, France are going to win this one. I'm afraid it's again. I'm all for these, likes of Nigeria and Morocco and South Africa getting into the knockout rounds. But I think in the knockout rounds, we're talking seismic shocks here. If Morocco were to beat France, I mean the questions it would raise. The only way I can see them beating France is if they took them to a 0-0 and did them on penalties. That's the only way I could see them doing that. I think I can see this as a France win. Comfortably, Diani looks to be on form now. I think she'll get in on the goals. I'd go, a routine 2-0 France win.
Do you know what? As much as I want the Cinderella story for Morocco, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to be, unfortunately, a little bit carved open like Germany did to them. Being a debutante and getting this far is absolutely phenomenal. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope they give France a game, because that's what we want to see. But on paper, France win this hands down. But I am going to go for a scoreline of 2-1 to France. Because there is a mistake in that back line.
That's a fair shout, because Panama did get 3 against France, so clearly there are.
Can I change that scoreline to 3-2, please?
To who?
To France, of course.
To France. 3-2. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'm going to go against the grain, actually. I think Morocco are going to get something from this. I think what's going to end up happening is France are going to miss chance after chance, very similar to what Colombia were doing in their game against Morocco, and Morocco ended up edging that. I just have a feeling what's going to happen is something similar. The ball just gets bundled in the last minute. Morocco sail through. So, has anyone got any surprises for us?
I was going. Well, in terms of results, I mean, we've had plenty of surprises already in this World Cup, haven't we? With Germany going out and like Jamaica getting through. I think this is going to be an element of routine, sort of normality. Although I say, I'm not so much surprised it would be, but it would be a shock if the USA went out in the last 16. I think it would. Well, not a shock, but I think it would be shocking. Shall we say? It wouldn't be. I don't think the result would be a surprise, but I think it would cause a huge stir. And that's what we are predicting is going to happen, that the USA will fall at this stage, and I think there will be repercussions from it.
No, absolutely. I'm on the same page as Adam, regardless of my bias and my opinions. I think Sweden may have the opportunity to go all the way, but it depends on who they face next. Again, Japan are in that same boat, could go all the way. So, and then on the other side, possibly England, and then I'm gonna go. I don't know what it is. I'm just gonna go for Colombia, and then things really turn up for the quarterfinals. I think that's going to be really interesting. You know, I'd love Morocco just to beat France and send them home and cause so much upset, but
I mean, I'd love it if Denmark. I think it's Denmark, Australia. I'd love it if Denmark beat Australia and Morocco beat France, and suddenly the draw just gets ever wider for us. But football's not like that. Football's not like that, sadly.
Well, it seems like that this year. If you look at who's gone out already.
Yeah.
And the wealth of experience and the legends that have left us for this tournament, as well as the very, very talented other team that's left us. Anything can happen at this point.
Yep.
So that is all from us. We will be back with a Lioness show and the roundup from the last 16 soon. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe.